video today you'll see me bike the heaphy. I set off tomorrow morning from Karamea from the west coast end. I finished work just now and I'm on my way home to pick up my bike and my dad, and we'll set off to the west coast. It's 1 PM right now on a Friday. It's been beautiful sunny weather. It's been very hot and tomorrow looks very nice for the ride as well. I've done the heaphy 2 times before. Once when I was 12, 10 years ago, and once when I was 15. But both those times I did it by foot across 5 days. And tomorrow I aim to do it in 1 day on my bike. It's a 76 kilometer ride at which I'll elevate about 2,000 meters. And I expect to finish it in about 8 hours with about 7 hours on my saddle. I've been planning this trip and training for it for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm really excited. The heaphy is a beautiful track.
It was at Spring Grove School, or the children were at Spring Grove School, and in the early days the road would have been put just beside the railway. They glue on the roofs, dichromatic tiles.
We're just making a pit stop in Murchison to fuel up.
Garvey's Road, Garvey.
We're at Waimangaroa, and up there you can see the Denison Incline. The Denison Incline was a steep 518 metre railway incline with gradients as much as 80%. It was a gravity-powered railway built to transport coal out from the high-altitude Denison Plateau. It was open from 1879 until closing nearly 90 years later as a result of newer coal transport systems that were more economical. It is now a historical site that's worth visiting.
Yeah, it's a bit. There's other houses over at the back. Bloody hell. So when we left Hamilton, we heard that our friends, that gully or the next gully, let's see if I can find it. It might have been up that gully. It's just a bit hard. When I say they lived here, they wanted to, and it was down that valley, is where they lived. Along the ridge to the north. It's the straightest piece of road I've seen for all day.
Here we are in Karamea. This is where we'll be staying for the night. The last resort. You can probably go in there.
Oh, there's six right there. What's that stuff made of? Is that concrete?
So we've made it now to Karamea and we're at our resorts. I've got my bike here, which I'm just setting up and packing with all my food for tomorrow. Right, here's the final setup of my bike. I've taped everything to my bike because I refuse to tape anything to my body so that I'm as weight free as I can be and move as freely as I like. So I've taped 1, 2 cans of baked beans, 1, 2, 3, 4 muesli bars. In the back I've got my puncture repair kit. Then here I've got extra warm gear, some extra snacks, sugar, electrolyte replenishment gels. I've got some breads. Oh yeah, bananas of course. I'm just having my dinner right now. I've got pasta. And then tomorrow morning I've got some cereal. We're in Kahai, the start of the heaphy track. I'm gonna have some breakfast and then we'll head off. Final setup, and I'm off. This is my last view of Ko Hai Hai. Man, the West Coast is just one of the most beautiful regions in New Zealand. These trees that you see here, which are very common on the West Coast, are called the nikau palm. Here we are, Katapo Creek Shelter. The Katapo Creek Shelter is named after the endangered species of Katapo spider, which is related to the Australian redback spider. It's actually the only venomous spider in New Zealand, and on the West Coast you can find it here in New Zealand's native tussocks, under pingao or spinifex, or on a driftwood or debris. Electrolyte gel. There's the first sight of sunlight. Here we are at the first heaphy hut. This is usually the hut that people stay at during their first night walking the heaphy when they come from my way. Here's the heaphy hut. So this group of trampers has just told me that I might find a takahe coming up towards Saxon Hut, which is 3 huts away from here. And I'd love to see a takahe. They're beautiful birds. So I'm not even going to stop to eat. I'm just going to plow on because these mosquitoes are unbelievable. So a little story. Last time I stayed at this hut, which was when I was about 14, about 8 years ago, on a school trip with a group of 10 of us, 2 parents and 8 of us kids. A friend of mine who was in the group got caught on this first night smoking weed by the teacher on the group. So he was then sent back home, meaning that my dad had to then walk him all the way back to the start of Ko Hai Hai, and then he had to catch up to us. I'm gonna trot on to the Lewis huts, and maybe I'll stop there. Oh, here's the bridge. The heavy swing bridge. Wow, it's beautiful. Te Rata Nui. That's a real cool swing bridge. Here's the next swing bridge, the Lewis swing bridge. Looks pretty similar. Now just a bit more cycling and Lewis Hut will just be right ahead. Here we are at the Lewis shelter. And this one must be new because I've never seen it before. Real nice hut, eh? Wow. Really cool. You can see the other swing bridge over there as well. The other Lewis hut they had was more like an emergency shelter. Not many people stayed there. Real cool, eh? So James Mackay's that way, and the old Lewis hut site's down there, so I'm gonna go check that one out. Here it is. This is where the old Lewis hut used to be. Now it's gone. And there's a new one just above it. Okay, I've just started the climb on my way up to James Mackay hut. Stopped halfway up the hill for a snack break. It's not that hard of a gradient, to be honest. It's not super steep. Here we are with James Mackay hut.
So how long does it go? You left at 6, so you've got to clear it.
So I'm at the James Mackay hut, which is probably about the halfway mark of the whole heaphy. The hut is named after James Mackay Jr., who was a bushman and explorer. He learned and spoke fluent Maori, so he played a key role in land negotiation to purchase the west coast for the New Zealand government. A really nice hut, this one. Both times I walked the heaphy, this was the hut I stayed at on my second night. Right, I'm off again to Saxon Hut, just a bit more uphill. So, James Mackay Jr., that hut was named after, he was the first person to push for a bridle track to go from the west coast to Golden Bay. That being this track, the heaphy track. Here's the Takahe sign, which I'm hoping to see once I get to Saxon Hut. It's a beautiful section of track. It's quite the contrast coming from the coast with Nikau palm to then be out here in red tussocks. Here we are, here's the Saxon Hut. Real nice hut, and I'm on the look for a takahe because some girls said they spotted one in the night 2 nights ago. So Saxon Hut is the hut that I stayed at the 3rd night of my tramp, the 2 times that I did it. It's a really nice, really cozy hut. It's named after John Saxon, who was one of the early settlers in New Zealand, who surveyed the heaphy track from Brown Hut all the way here to Saxon Hut. The first time I walked the heaphy and stayed here, there was a man who'd broke his hip at Lewis Hut, and he'd walked all the way here with a big limp and a walking stick. And by the time he got here, he decided that he didn't want to go in anymore. He didn't have any way of calling for an emergency helicopter. So me and my friends, who I walked it with, we would have been about 12, and we walked some way up that hill to find the ranger's hut, which was unattended, and we broke into it and we found an old radio that was still connected to the servers. And then we called in a helicopter, and within 2 hours the helicopter came in, landed, and the pilot came out, chucked the man over his shoulder, took him off and flew him to Nelson to the hospital. So real funny, just back there, 100 meters back, I was cycling across a bridge that's just been constructed across the tussocks, and there were 6 dock rangers sat there on smoko break with their high-vis on, and just as I was coming past them, one of them yelled out my name, and I turned around and it was my friend's dad who works for dock. And such a coincidence, he's out here on a Saturday building a bridge. So anyway, I stopped off, said g'day, and it turned out I knew all of them because my dad worked for dock. And each one of them he worked with, which is such a coincidence to see them out here in the middle of the Kahurangi working on a Saturday. There's a cave over there that you can actually swim at because there's a little river underneath it. And just above it, I think over that little hill, is Golden Downs Hut. It's not far now. I'm still on a search for a takahe. Hopefully there's some up at Golden Downs. Here's some more work laid out here that I'm sure the guys will be up to do in a second. Maybe another bridge they're building. Although this one looks like it's in perfectly good working order. Here we are, Golden Downs. Got a nice can crusher here. But I won't need it, I've already stomped on my can and shoved it in there. So, I wonder if I can spot a takahe here. When I came here on my last trip, when I was 14, I saw a takahe right here come out of the bush. It's a really cool bird. The reason that Golden Downs and Saxon Hut are such common places in the heaphy to see takahe is because in March 2018, there was the first takahe drop in the Kahurangi National Park, right here by Golden Downs. I believe there are species of takahe from Fiordland. Now there's a recorded 30 takahe in total in the Kahurangi National Park. Look at this one. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, I'm heading off now. This is a 7-kilometer ride up to Perry Saddle Hut, which will be the highest point of the heaphy track. That's just my last bit of uphill, and then it's all smooth sailing downhill back to the other end at Brown Hut. Cool bridge, eh? Nah, this section of track is so bumpy. Unbikeable, this section of track. That's a beautiful view. Here's the famous boot corner, but I noticed I've stripped it down from all the boots that used to be up there and just kept the old ones. There used to be like 100 pairs up there. So far on this ride, I've cycled past 3 people wearing Crocs, and it comes no surprise that all Gen Z, quite an obnoxious generation we are. They could have taken some boots from here, because these old buggers would have done them much better on the heaphy than Crocs. You can see Golden Downs off there in the distance where I've come from. And then even further, you can see the track that I took from Saxon Hut. Nice. All good spot to have some lunch. Blood sugar's low, so I'm chowing down on some sour snacks. The hut's only about 500 meters away, and this section of track is the most huckery section, so I'm just walking it. Here we are, here's the hut, Perry Saddle. Here we are. This is my favourite hut, Perry Saddle. It's really modern. It's got gas cookers as well. It's got a beautiful view Oh bugger, the clouds are out. If it weren't cloudy in that direction, you'd see a beautiful mountain range called the Dragon's Teeth and various other ones. So that's the Perry Saddle hut. That's the hut I stayed at for the 4th night of both the trips that I've done by foot on the heaphy. Now I'm off. I've got a couple of kilometers climb to go. Then I've got 15 or 16 k's descent all the way to Brown Hut where I'll be picked up. This first section of track is really rough. Look at him. Beautiful bird. Flanagan's Corner. Quick detour up here by foot to have a look at it, then come back. Here we are. Highest point up the heaphy. Too bad with all the cloud coverage, because that's a beautiful mountain range right there. Right, I'm off. Alright, I'm off. Downhill the rest of the way back. So I'm pretty much all the way down the hill. I've just stopped to have a look at this lookout. I haven't filmed since Perry Saddle Hut because my battery's on like 5%, and I've just been hustling it down this hill. It's a rough track. I mean, it's not really the nicest to mountain bike, but I mean, you can still hustle it. Here we are, the very end, Brown Hut. Oh, so I'm all finished now with my ride through the heaphy. Still feeling really fresh. I'm at Brown Hut. It took me a total of 7 hours and 30 minutes from Kohai to here. That was 80 kilometers, and I'm not quite sure about the elevation just yet. I'll have to upload my Strava to look at that. Cool, so 3rd time ever doing the heaphy, and 1st time ever doing it on bike. For context, the heaphy track is named after Charles Heaphy. He was one of the first European explorers to explore the west coast of New Zealand. And the heaphy was established in the late 1800s as a bridle track. So the heaphy crosses the Kahurangi National Park. The Kahurangi National Park is the 2nd biggest national park in New Zealand after Fiordlands. Fiordlands is 13,500 kilometers squared, and for any curious Belgians, that's the same size as Flanders. And if you combine every national park in New Zealand, that makes up 30,000 kilometers squared, which is the same size as Belgium. So I'll be getting picked up in about 45 minutes by my mum. All done and dusted. My ride should be here soon.